Hey everybody, today we are going to be mixing colors with our oil pastels, and we're going to experiment with positive and negative space. So I want you to first look at how small the paper is I'm working with. You are going to want to work on small paper because the amount of coloring that we're going to do will take you forever if you even use half a sheet of paper. So like my piece of paper, like this big. Okay, so little pieces of paper. I recommend using a thicker piece of paper. Like if you have like a note card or something, you can use that. That's probably going to work the best. So the first thing that I'd like you to do is I want you to brainstorm 2 pictures. And as you're drawing those pictures, I want you to think about what is your main object, like the positive space, and what would be the negative space in your drawing. So I drew 2 pictures here. They're kind of Halloween inspired since it's that time of year. So I have a pumpkin, a jack-o'-lantern, and I colored in my positive space, okay? So my main object, the space that's taking up, or the space that the main object is taking up, I've colored in. Okay, so I colored in like the pumpkin part of my jack-o'-lantern and the stem, but then I left the part that you cut out of the jack-o'-lantern white because I'm going to consider the part that is cut away from the pumpkin negative space. Kind of think of like when you're removing something, you're taking it away, you're kind of like subtracting it, so it becomes negative space. And we're going to talk more about that soon. My other brainstormed idea was a black cat. And I left his eyes as negative space because I want those to be, I don't want them to be black because then it wouldn't look like my cat has any eyes. So sometimes you have to choose to leave some negative space. You have to leave some empty space so that like parts don't blend together. So like my cat's nose wouldn't be, I mean, maybe it would be black, but I didn't want it to blend in. So I left it as negative space. I didn't color it in, okay? And same thing with the ears. So you can leave parts of your 2 brainstorm drawings as negative space if you want to like draw a jack-o'-lantern and leave those pieces that you would take away or cut out of the pumpkin. You can call those negative space because you've taken something away, or you can leave something as negative space if you don't want it to blend into your positive space. So I'd like you to pause the video, brainstorm 2 ideas, and then come back to the video once you've done that, okay? Now, once you've come back to the video and you have your 2 brainstormed ideas, we're just going to kind of put these off to the side. And we're going to make the base layer for our Sgraffito. So we talked about what Sgraffito is already, and this base layer is going to be the color that is underneath, that when we scratch away the top layer, which we'll talk about in a minute, you're going to be able to see the colors underneath that we're about to put on our white paper. So we're going to be using our primary colors to make the secondary colors because secondary colors always make me think of Halloween. So that's kind of what inspired my sketches. And I just thought it would be a really cool way to use our color knowledge to create our base layer. So you can add your secondary colors onto your paper by mixing your colors. You can put them on there however you want. I did stripes on this paper. I'm thinking on this paper, I'm going to do more like circles or dots. So I'm going to do a dot of yellow, and then I'm going to use my red to kind of add to that dot, and it's turning orange. So I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. There we go. So I think I'm going to do a couple more orange dots. Then I'm going to add some green dots in here. So I'm still going to start with yellow because that's the darker color or the lighter color. And my dots can touch. Now, the last color that I need to do is purple. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to color the rest of my space with my blue, and then I'm going to add the red on top, and that'll create a purple. So I'm going to try to cover up all of my white space. Okay, so I've got my my purple background with my orange and green dots here. And then I've got my striped background paper too. You only have to do one of these drawings. I just wanted to show you that it doesn't matter how you make your secondary colors on your base layer. You just need to make sure you have all three. So you could have done like slanted lines, you could have done squares. It is totally up to you how you want to put those secondary colors on for your base layer. Then we're going to do something kind of weird, and you're probably not going to be a huge fan of this. But once your base layer is all the way done and there is very little white paper showing through, that's really important. Make sure there's very little white paper showing through your oil pastel. Then you're going to take one of these colors, it doesn't matter which one, and you're going to color over top of the entire thing. And I know that that seems super weird and kind of sad, but I promise it's going to be cool when we start to do the Sgraffito process. So I'm going to use my blue, and I might even use another color to color over top of this. And our goal is to kind of like make a muddy, dark color over top of all of these other colors that we've added to cover up and hide our base layer. Okay, so here are my two pieces of paper. I used red and blue mostly to create the muddy color on top of here. So make sure that your color looks really muddy. You can't really see your base layer. Like I can see some of my like orange circles showing through, but not a lot. It's pretty muddy. Now we're going to move on to how to create our images onto our piece of paper. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with my cat. So like I said, you only need to do one drawing. I'm going to do two just because I want to. It's kind of fun. So your goal is to scratch away the negative space. Okay, so it's going to be the opposite of what you did to draw your sketch. Okay, so my sketch is of this black cat, so I'm not going to draw the black cat onto here and color him in. My goal is to remove the muddy color to reveal the negative space, okay? So it's backwards drawing. We're going to be scratching away this muddy color to reveal the negative space, okay? So remember, like when you're taking something away, or you're subtracting, we're going to be subtracting the muddy color from the top. We're kind of creating negative space. We're removing something, okay? And what we're going to be leaving here is the picture. What you're going to be leaving on your Sgraffito paper is your picture that you've drawn, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw just the outline of my cat onto here, and I'm going to try to leave his whiskers on there, okay? So I'm going to draw his ears, top of his head. And as you're scratching, you're going to notice that you're getting some, like, I call these oil pastel boogers. Make sure that you're sitting at a table or a counter, because if these little boogers get like on the couch or on the carpet, they're really, really hard to get out. But if you're sitting at the table, these just clean off the table with a little bit of soap and water. So I'm going to draw the other side of his head, and then I'm going to draw kind of like, these are his whiskers. They're kind of like little rectangles that I'm leaving. There we go. It's starting to look pretty cool. And I can see my green and my orange and my purple showing through. Now I need to look at where else I've left the negative space in my drawing. So I said that I left negative space in his eyes because I didn't want them to blend in with the rest of his face. I left negative space on his nose because I didn't want his nose to blend in. And I also left some negative space in his ears because I didn't want his ears just to look like triangles. So when I draw his eyes, I'm going to be scraping away where I left my drawing white. Alrighty, so there's my little cat. And I now need to scratch away the outside of my drawing, right? Because that is definitely negative space. All right, so there's my little black cat guy. And now I'm going to do my pumpkin. So the pumpkin is a little bit easier. And remember, I'm going to scratch away what I've left white. What is the negative space on here? So remember that as you are creating your Sgraffito artwork, you're going to be scratching away the negative space. So that's the space that you did not draw anything in your brainstorm sketches. Okay, so I left the eyes, the nose, and the mouth of my pumpkin blank and empty. That's negative space. Space that is not being used by the main object is negative space. So you're scratching away the negative space from your brainstorm drawing. Can't wait to see your wonderful artwork and have fun.